Hello, welcome everybody tonight to this live stream. Just want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. As long as you know, I'm Martin Tucson, involved with Rock BMX Ministry. It's an outreach. I just do the BMX freestyle tricks just to share the gospel, a great tool to be able to use just to reach the younger and the older generation. So I just want to thank, at the very start, I want to thank Word Out Media, Gavin Dowd, for helping with this production. We hope to be doing some more live broadcasts. So we're very excited about our guest tonight. So just before we had introduced our guest tonight, I just want to show a few little video clips. I'm just going to show these now. And also, yes, as some of you might know, our guest tonight is Todd Carter, AFA, Flatland legend, and we're looking forward to hearing Todd's journey in BMX and also to hear a bit of Todd's testimony. So we're just going to show a few clips of Todd now, and just sit back and enjoy these clips.
Pull out for us today.
Me and Andy were talking. You say something on the contest?
Yeah, picking up on that back wheel. Yeah, getting that bike upside down underneath him.
I'm doing pretty good.
Yep. Yes, get that. There you go. Smooth way to start off the run right there. Judge is absolutely looking for this consistency of pulling those tricks. They want to see.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. Wonderful talent Todd has. God's blessed him. And so I just want to, at this point, just want to welcome Todd to the live broadcast. And Todd, just thanks very much for taking the time tonight just to come along and just to share a wee bit about your BMX history and also a bit of your testimony.
Sure thing. I'm super happy to be here. I appreciate the warm introduction and calling me a legend. I got a little verklempt there a little bit. So thanks so much. That's very kind of you, and it's great to be here today. Still welcome. Afternoon, actually, here in the States, so you'll see it's a little daylight, not evening quite yet.
Okay, yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's about 7 p.m. our time, but just want to get straight into it, Todd, and just basically tell us a bit about your journey in the BMX, how it all started for you, and any sort of your first bike, and any influences and anything in your start in the BMX journey.
Sure thing. I think with like most BMX riders that began riding in the early to mid 80s, was largely influenced by magazines. I can remember seeing, full page photos of riders doing BMX tricks in magazines like BMX Plus and BMX Action. Those were sort of the magazines that we saw first, and we began to see this new thing that sort of we had seen before, that sort of was born, I think, in Southern California, and kind of began to grow and spread really across the world. And it, I think it began with riders who were just kind of hanging out between races, and decided, hey, let's make some use of this time, and just playing around, wheelies and those kinds of things. And one thing led to another. Tricks began to build upon each other and get a little bit more sophisticated and a little more sophisticated. And freestyle, as they called it back in the day, was born. And so BMX magazines were traditionally covering racing, began to also feature, these freestyle movements that began to kind of break out. And it was something that I think just kind of hit the culture at the right time. The bikes were very different than traditional BMX. Colors, very colorful. 80s was a crazy time, so there was a lot of color, loud graphics, and just fun. Kind of an exciting sort of a new birth. And I began to, raced a little bit and was really drawn in by these photos that I saw, and got my first bike in June of 1985. It was a GT Performer, if you remember those, white. Saved up money from, I think, gosh, it took me probably 6 or 8 months or so to save up enough money doing chores and whatnot to be able to buy the bike. It came in on the last day of school, so I was set for that summer, the summer of 1985, and began learning tricks that I saw in magazines. At that time it was Martin Aparicio, Brian Skura. Those were sort of Eddie Fiola. Those are sort of the guys that I was looking to for inspiration, and began to learn the track stand. I think was probably one of the first tricks that I ever learned, and then from there, kind of sitting on the handlebars and switching back and forth, and from there it just began to build back wheel hops, those kinds of things. So that was all the summer of '85, and again, very different time where it would be 4 weeks or 6 weeks between magazines. So we wouldn't necessarily see any new tricks in that time. So we would keep going back and just memorizing these images that we saw. You remember those days of just, cutting these photos out of magazines and putting them on your wall, and just, looking at them over and analyzing, okay, how did they do that? Trying to figure that out. And then the next magazine would come out 6 weeks later, and you realize, oh, I've been doing that totally wrong the whole time here. So then you start over with a new strategy. But really, that's kind of how it began. Contests began happening. And please, if I'm rambling here, you can cut me off.
Oh, you carry on.
Okay. Contests began happening, in '85, and I was very blessed to live in Ohio, where we had a local AFA scene. I'm sorry, my dog is starting to bark here a little bit. So
Okay.
We had a local AFA scene, and I began to hear about competitions that were happening, freestyle competitions that included both flat ground and ramp contests. So in January of 1986, a group of us went to our first BMX contest. And I think there's actually some video of that here. It's kind of crazy to me to see how many tricks were learned in that June from '85 to January of 1986, moment of time. We can actually go ahead and roll that if you'd like to, Gavin.
Yep.
Good job. No hands. You want to put all of it? Tuck harder. Now, Columbus, Ohio is where he's from. Lower your hands down, back to the scorpion. Down to the guppy.
Amazing. That was
So-
amazing. God, yeah. A lot of kids always wear your safety helmet and your pads and stuff. Always take safety first. Todd, can I just ask, any now watching that, any sort of major injuries over the years, and regarding competing, any sponsors as well?
Yes, to both. I, I was sponsored by a local bike shop in the late 80s, Pedal Power BMX, and then I was fortunate enough to win a couple of contests in Ohio, and was sponsored by Hutch BMX for a time as well, and it was great to be able to have the opportunity to do some shows for Hutch in the summers in a couple of different places, and ride for them, represent them in contests. Honestly, it was just such a great time. Back in the late 80s, there's so many people involved, so much energy in the sport, and so much fun. Riding progressed so much as well. In terms of injuries, I have had a number over the years. I'll kind of count through them for you here. I've had some broken toes. I had a broken ankle, split a kneecap. Let's see, I broke my hand. I broke a couple of fingers. I broke a few different ribs. I broke my nose. I've broken some teeth. I have been knocked unconscious once. Again, this is all over the course of 30 plus years. So it's not like all this happens. It's not like a Matt Hoffman situation at all. These sort of are spread out over a long period of time. But yes, a number of bumps and bruises, and along the way, sure, that kind of comes with the territory.
Yeah. But did you find that a lot of the injuries, did it sort of hold you back from riding? And also, I'd like to know, could you tell me what the first trick you probably ever did learn? I don't know where it was, an endo or something, but what's your best trick today, and what do you find is the hardest trick to pull today?
Boy, that's a lot there. I think that what kind of learning through injuries is difficult. One of the things that I had to learn is that what do you do when you can't ride? So there's a skill that a lot of riders practice, and they sort of think about being off the bike for 7, 8, 9 weeks, maybe even longer with breaks. At times, I visualize, okay, what is it that I can do when I do get back? What happened? I do that sometimes too. Kind of think about what happened that that I can try to prevent the same thing from happening again, and then also visualizing what can I do that's new that I haven't done before. So you kind of use that time to mentally prepare for the next tricks. In terms of first trick that I learned, I think it was probably the track stand, leaning the bike over and balancing, kind of using the pedal, to the side. I think that was probably the first trick that I learned. Fork rolls, or probably a close second, where it's sort of standing on the front peg and kicking the tire around in a circle. Frame stands were also on that list. I think you saw one in the video there that I started that run off with. So those were among the first few tricks that I learned, and they were so fun. And honestly, they're still fun all these years later. And those began kind of the building blocks for tricks that I do today. Really, that's what the sport of flatland BMX, that's kind of evolved out of freestyle BMX, is all about, is building blocks. You learn a particular trick that uses one method, and your body figures out how to do it, and you're like, okay, well, I can build upon that method, then push it a step further and a step further. And really, it's all about those little building blocks, to move forward.
Yeah,
Um,
excellent. Yeah, I was going to say also I know it's all started stemmed from the old school BMX, and then sort of Flatland sort of came along, and um, some of the basic stuff, you know, what Bob Harrow did. It's sometimes even the simple stuff still it's still not easy to do some of the stuff. But that's I'm more just of a old I say old school rider.
sure.
Breaks all the way. Can I,
Nope,
Todd,
no,
can I ask you
no
about
problem.
could I ask you about the AFA, the American Freestyle Association? Can you sort of tell us a bit of the history of the AFA? I know it went for a certain period in the 80s, but there's been a resurgence of the AFA. Could you tell us a bit about? I know you still compete today, and just a bit of a journey with the AFA and how you helped to get it back on track again, and just with competing and maybe some of your. I know you podiumed on our last competition. If you could maybe share a wee bit about that, Todd, please.
Sure, sure. Uh, well, back in the day, the American Freestyle Association, the AFA, began, and I would guess probably in 1984. I'm guessing with that, but somewhere around the early 80s, and it began to progress into a BMX freestyle contest that had local affiliates in all parts of the U.S. And then even outside of that, it began to have full-on masters contests where they would have maybe 6 masters, what they would call masters contests, in different parts of the United States, 6 per year. And so, if you did well in your local AFA contest, you were encouraged to go and ride in the masters contest. And this continued from, I'm guessing, 84 through 1990. And the AFA, during the heyday of BMX freestyle in the late 80s, the AFA just became huge. I mean, it was, I can remember having more than 100 riders just in my class at contests. And so a couple of contests that I went to began at 9 in the morning and would still be going, at 10, 11 at night, just from, and that's just flatland. That's not ramp. So that's how many riders were a part of the AFA at its heyday. And so I think we actually have some footage of one of the largest AFA contests ever. This was in Columbus, Ohio, in 1988. This was I happened to be sponsored by Hutch at the time, so I'm riding Hutch Trickstar 2, and did pretty well in this contest. Enjoyed it. Had a lot of fun. I think we can maybe take a look at this video.
Yep.
Now.
Excellent. That's amazing, and that's amazing, Todd. I like that no-handed infinity roll. I don't think I've ever seen anybody do it, or you. Um, Also, could you tell us a bit more about where the AFA is now, Todd? And I know you still compete, and how you've done in the latest competition.
Absolutely, yes. So So the AFA continued, I think, through 1990, and then BMX went through a kind of a recession, and interest in BMX bikes began to drop significantly. And because of that, I think the AFA kind of had to respond, bike companies had to respond, and it was very lean, a number of very lean years in BMX after that. But in year 2014, James McGraw, Joe Sisman, and I kind of came together, and we all experienced kind of this rich history of the AFA growing up. And we sort of thought, you know, wouldn't it be cool if we could somehow recapture that, not only for us to be able to enjoy again, but for other people to be able to be a part of as well. And so in 2014, James McGraw really is the catalyst for you know, pushing this forward and making it happen. And he connected with Bob Morales, who was the former president of the American Freestyle Association. And he said, hey, we're thinking of kind of revitalizing the AFA. We'd like to call it the American Flatland Association. Are you okay with that? And Bob kind of gave his blessing for that. And we began having contests in 2014, you know, sometimes 4 rounds a year, I think sometimes even 5, a couple of years, where we did 5 rounds again in various parts around the country. And my role is sort of helping or do organization for contests. You know, I sort of help to just orchestrate anything that needs to be done kind of behind the scenes. James is sort of the front person of the organization. He is also an announcer at the contests, and he also is sort of a, you know, person who goes out and acquires sponsorships and venues, and really, you know, runs the operation big picture wise. Joe Sisman has also been a help for technical pieces along the way, big help over the years as well. So we've moved into now, 2020 was a very difficult year for all of us in many ways, and the AFA experienced that as well. So we sort of went through a lot of the year just trying to figure out, what are we going to do? I mean, is this year total wash, or, you know, what kind of, you know, what can we do to kind of make this work? And we sort of had the idea of just doing an online contest where riders would kind of submit their run. It can't be edited. It has to be, you know, one shot of a contest run, just like you would in, you know, a live contest. You kind of get one shot to do it. And so riders would submit their videos online, and then we kind of pool them all together, have some judges that come together and kind of rank where those riders fit in their particular classes. Pardon me. And so I think we had riders from, you know, dozens of countries actually be a part of that in 2020. You know, it was great to see, you know, more than 30 pro riders representing riders all over the world as well. I think three of the five classes completely filled up, and registration had to close. So it was great to see so much interest for people that really wanted to be a part of it. I rode, entered the contest. I'm not a part of judging in any way. I just, you know, entered my run just like everybody else, and I just helped orchestrate, you know, the process. But I don't influence judging. I'm not a part of any of that. So it allows me to still be able to have fun in contests too. And in that instance, I was able to get 3rd place, I think out of 11 riders in the master class. And I was really happy with that. And it's the best that I've done in a number of years, actually, in a contest. And I think we have a little bit of my run here. This is, again, my garage and just one shot kind of a deal. Yeah, so the idea behind this is that as I was writing in the master class, so you get 2 minutes and 30 seconds, I believe. And so this was back in, I think it was late August of 2020. And I can remember kind of practicing the run, over and over and over again to get it, one, pull the tricks that I wanted, but also to smooth out the rough edges that, that I wasn't happy with. And so it actually was much more of a challenge than I anticipated, because you think kind of a contest run, you go out and you do your thing and you prepare as much as you can. But in a video run like this, you've got the ability to say, no, I didn't like that too much. I'm going to do that again and again and again. And so you find yourself kind of in this loop that you're never done. It's never over until the deadline comes and goes. So I did this run a number of times, and was pretty happy with it in the end. Kind of how it turned out, and I was very blessed to be able to get to place as well as I did. So, but the AFA has continued and is, at least for this first contest of 2021, AFA is doing another online contest. The website is afabmx.com. Registration is open there, and the deadline is in about 6 more weeks for that contest. So again, kind of the goal here is to give riders around the world just an outlet to be able to express themselves on their bike, to be able to have community with other riders from around the world who are like-minded, and to learn together and grow, and just to enjoy BMX together.
Yeah,
so
that's amazing. Yeah, it's great. It's great that you have your own wee spot to practice in as well. I know that that's one of the things I suffer from, really, the weather over here in an indoor venue. It's hard to get somewhere to actually, at some point I would like to get my own place, to be able to practice inside. But the weather's not the best in Northern Ireland. So Todd, I want to move on now to the most probably important part of the broadcast tonight is, as we know you're a Christian, Todd, could you really tell me about how that all sort of came about, and maybe share a bit of your testimony, and just sort of how that all came about, your road to sort of becoming a Christian, and then sort of how that sort of affects you in your riding, and what the other riders think about you, your faith, and the sort of ups and downs of being a Christian, really, even amongst other sort of BMXers, and just really a bit of your story and how God maybe has helped you through your journey.
Sure. Well, I was fortunate enough to grow up. Both my parents were Christians, and I went to church. It was one of those things where I kind of didn't have a choice. Church was a part of our life. Sunday morning, Sunday evening, and Wednesday evening. And it was something that I accepted Christ into my life as a 5-year-old in Sunday school. I can remember these. I don't know if you remember that thing called flannel graph. They're almost like paper pieces that you could put on this texture, and these pieces would stay. Well, anyway, visual learner as I am, I can remember those, and that's the story made sense to me that day, and I accepted Jesus into my life at that time. But I feel like I didn't fully embrace, all that God had for me until I was about 17 years old. It wasn't for the church that I grew up in was awesome. People there, fantastic people, many of which I love to this day, and have relationships with. In fact, my first BMX show that I ever did, I think we even have a photo of it here, was at my church. And when I look at this photo, yeah, that's me as a 13-year-old. And as I look at it, I'm thinking to myself, a body of believers, believes enough in this kid to let him come in and ride his bike inside a church picnic. It's raining outside, by the way, at the time, so he's doing this inside around all their food. But they're believing in him, supporting him, and kind of coming around him with open arms. And you know what? That still speaks to me of what a supportive community can be. Fantastic people who love me and embrace me as a 13-year-old kid riding this bike. And so fast forward to when I was about 17 years old, I went to a Christian camp for a week. It's called Scioto Hills Camp in Ohio. And I really experienced God in a new way there. I feel like, it was the first time I saw God outside of maybe a church setting, and seeing God in a way that is relevant each day, not just Sunday or Wednesday at church. I hope that makes sense. But it felt real to me, and I made some life changes then, and I was, again, blessed beyond measure that I was able to spend some time at that camp. After I was there, they again welcomed me to do some shows. I think there's even a photo here of me, again, riding my bike, kind of giving my testimony to these campers at this camp. Again, another situation where this community embraced this kid and said, hey, he's doing something here. He's expressing himself. Let's give him a chance. And yeah, again, grateful for this community that has continued to, it's been a story that's continually happened to me. And I felt like, God kind of got a hold of my heart, and I decided to made a decision to go to a Christian college. I minored in Bible, and was a part of actually full-time ministry for about 20 years in media communications in the church. So I feel like my story has been, there's so many, it's such a tapestry of, God's people coming together and mixing together with, God's direction and this bike thing, all kind of coming together to make me into, who I am today. And I'm so grateful and so thankful for all these folks that have been a part of my life and have helped set me into a direction. I'm not perfect. Certainly don't mean to say that at all. And I don't have all the secrets to life, and I don't have life figured out, as it were. But I feel like I've been super, super blessed to be able to have the influence of folks who've looked for not only looked out for me, but also for my heart, and genuinely wanted the best for me, and built into my life, and looked out for me, and many that continue to do so.
It's amazing. I find that that's what I do now, really through the BMX. Just, really, it's a tool, a vehicle that God sort of has given me to use. And that's really, I can relate to a lot of what you're saying about the church. And my church let me use the sports hall to practice in. And again, it's when I first started the ministry, it was a group of young boys who stopped me, and they actually, the first thing they thought was I was a bit old to be riding the BMX, but it led me to share about my faith, and just like you, at the camp and stuff. And I just use it now as a tool, really, to reach the youth and the older generation. Todd, what would you say to people who really maybe don't know the Lord Jesus Christ, and maybe don't have him in their lives, and or maybe searching in life for something just to fill that void, what would you sort of say? And also, it'd be interesting to know if you would you have a certain scripture that's close to your heart?
Yes, absolutely. I would say to folks, it's kind of, sometimes it's difficult to put into words what a relationship is, because it's easier sometimes to demonstrate or to show examples of that rather than to describe categories of it. But I mean, it's something for me that is it's wisdom daily. It is hope for what's to come. It is sort of, when I think of relationship, I go back to 1 Peter 4:10, which is kind of the verse that I share when I share my story of what God's done through me, or in me rather, and what God does through writing. It's each of you should use whatever gift you've received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. And for me, that's something that I try to do. And again, I think I shared this before, but I do want to emphasize, I don't feel like, when you put your faith in Christ and, have God as a part of your life, I don't feel like, that's a magic button that suddenly then you don't have, troubles, or, everything is rosy, in your life. That's not the case. And I mean, that's not God's plan for us either. But it is a matter of, I feel like, I'm not alone when those things kind of happen to me. And I do feel like I have, a place to turn for wisdom and direction and grace. And so for me, it is definitely more about a relationship than it is a list of, categories or anything like that. And I hope that makes sense, trying to differentiate between, the descriptors of having Christ, a relationship with God in your life. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It does, Todd. Yeah, I can relate. I relate to a lot of that. Yeah, grace is definitely a big thing. Yeah, I know that we all go through troubles, and I think it's just God is a very present help in time of trouble, and He is our rock. That's why my ministry is called Rock BMX Ministry. That Christ is our rock. And I just think it's great that I think that when God gives you a gift or a talent, I think He's giving you it for the very reason to use it, to bring glory to His name. And just the fact that I am doing what I'm doing at nearly 54 years of age, But anyway, Todd, I just want to thank you for your time tonight. I know that you probably could have been doing other things, but I want to thank you for sharing about your story. I want to thank you for just encouraging others, and I want to thank you for your testimony. And just that I just pray that God will continue to use you and bless you. And I know that what's that nickname you have? What's your nickname in the BMX community?
Sure. The next contest will be the AFA Dream Run 2021 contest, and the deadline for that is I think March the 14th. So we've got another 5-6 weeks for that, and then results will be judged over the few days there after the 14th. So that's what I'm preparing for now. Yeah, but if I can quickly, I just wanted to say something. And one of the things that points to me that I feel like writing is something that has been such a gift to me, a God-given gift. I've heard this from a mentor of mine years ago, and it's really stuck with me. He says that if what you're doing honors God, blesses others, and brings others joy, then you know that you're kind of in your sweet spot. So it's honors God, blesses others, and brings others joy. And that's what riding does for me, and it can in certain contexts, I think. So I just feel really blessed to be able to have it in my life and to be able to share it.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, we've got another video just we want to show just to go out on, Todd. And again, thank you, my brother, for sharing, and all the very best and within the competition, the online competition, and hopefully you'll place again. And thanks for your time and for your testimony. And I just pray that God will continue to bless you and give you health and strength. And we're just going to show another one of your videos here just to close this segment of the program. Okay, Todd, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Martin. Appreciate it very much.
Let's see what he's going to pull out for us today. Yeah, picking up on that back wheel. Yeah, getting that bike upside down underneath him. Yep. Yes, yes, get that. There you go. Smooth way to start off the run right there. Judge is absolutely looking for this consistency of pulling those tricks. They want to see you pulling those links, getting right back on the pedals. Yeah, we call that one a wheelchair or a crack packer. Stepping right back out of it. Yeah, keeping things rolling. Next circling around. Yeah, switching those bars up. Yes. All kinds of tricks up in this combo. Yeah, Todd, still going. 30 seconds left. Yo, there you go. There's one right there from Todd Carter.